Welcome to Forbidden Planet TV, where it's my pleasure this time around not only to be talking to somebody who's immensely talented, but talking to somebody who's a very old friend of mine, somebody I've known for 30 years, Mr. Peter Hogan. How are you, mate?
Hello, Andrew. How you doing?
I'm good. And what a delight to be talking to you about work for a change.
I know. Yeah, we've known each other a long time, yeah.
Perhaps the work that Peter is the most famous for, which is his Dark Horse series, Resident Alien, which has just been recently released as an omnibus edition. There is a new Resident Alien series, Your Ride Is Here, that is coming out from Dark Horse at the moment. And of course, the Resident Alien TV show, starring Alan Tudyk, is launching on the 27th of Jan in the US on Sci-Fi, and on the 28th of Jan in the UK on Sky. So Peter, for the uninitiated, what can you tell them about Resident Alien?
What can I tell you about Resident Alien? It's about, well, first of all, I should say that there are sort of differences between the comic and the TV show. So I'm going to talk about the comic first and foremost. And it's about an alien who crash lands on Earth and basically gets stuck here. And so tries living at a low profile, but the world kind of draws him out, and he ends up being a doctor in this small town in the Pacific Northwest. And he's kind of bored out of his mind, you know, waiting for a rescue that may or may not ever come. So he ends up getting drawn into solving local murder mysteries and related crimes. And that's basically the premise of the TV show. There's a whole supporting cast of characters in the town, the sheriff and the mayor and a nurse called Asta that's particularly close to Harry, who's the alien is going by the name of Harry. So, and that's basically it. We've done 5 miniseries. The 6th one's running at the moment.
Yeah. That's your Ride Is Here, right?
That's Your Ride's Here, yeah. And so it's been about 10 years now. In fact, it's been over 10 years since I first wrote the proposal and got the deal with Dark Horse. And it's all Steve Parkhouse's fault.
It's the great Steve Parkhouse, right? So what role did he play in the, I know he plays a big role in the creation of the book, but what role did he play in the launch of the book?
Well, Steve and I had quite a long history. I mean, I'd edited him on when I was editing Revolver. And then we did 4 issues of the Sandman spin-off comic, The Dreaming, together. And we worked together really well. So I always wanted to work with Steve again. And a couple of things we tried and they just didn't happen. And eventually one day I said, Steve, what do you want to do? You know, is there anything sort of you'd really like to do? And we'll see what we can develop out of it. And he wanted to do a story about aliens, but try and avoid sort of all the cliches. So an alien who was not here to invade us or probe people's bottoms or whatever, but was just basically
all that good stuff.
A nice guy who got stuck here.
Yeah.
And so we did a proposal. We did about 6 pages of artwork and sent it out to various publishers. Dark Horse were the one that came back straight away and very strongly said they wanted to do it. And I think one of the reasons was that right at the start, they could see what I could see as well, which was this thing might have legs in another medium. And so pretty much right from the start, they were talking to Hollywood.
Fantastic. What's that road been like while you and Steve have been creating the book, but also having those sometimes interminable conversations, you know, about developing a property for Hollywood?
Well, it's a long process. Well, Mike Richardson jokes that, you know, it took 10 years and, you know, we were one of the quick ones, you know. I guess it was 9 years when we kind of, you know, got the, you know, they were doing a pilot. It was actually happening. But even so, yeah, It was a long, slow process, but it was like a very slow pendulum swing, because you'd get a flurry of activity for about a week and lots of conversations, and all people are interested in this and that and all this. And then it'd go away again, and it'd be quiet for about another year, and then you'd get another flurry, and so it kind of went on. Eventually they found Chris Sheridan, who's the showrunner on this, and Chris started putting it together, and then they got the deal with Sci-Fi, and go ahead for a pilot, and then go ahead for a series. So it's all, and then COVID kind of threw a spanner into the works for a year, but it's all happening. So
and the lead on the show, the guy playing Harry, is Alan Tudyk, right?
yes, that's correct. And I mean, that was when they told me it was Alan, I was just like, well, that's kind of dream casting, you know. So and he is, I mean, the TV show is very different, and there is kind of, and one of the reasons I think it's different is Alan, who has this, brilliant capacity for visual comedy, and a kind of real sort of otherness, he's just out there. So I'm sure that shaped the direction that the show went in to some extent. But I mean, I was overjoyed when I heard it was him.
I'm sure that you were. For people who are familiar with the comic book, without offering up too many spoilers, can you go into any of the differences between the book and the show?
Well, one of the obvious ones is just how they handle Harry's appearance, because in the comic, if you open up the comic, you see him as an alien, and we show him as an alien the whole time.
Yeah.
And but all the people around him are just treating him normally. So he's obviously hypnotizing them or doing something to them, so they don't register what he actually looks like. In the TV show, they don't do that for a lot of obvious reasons. One of which is, I think people want to be able to relate to a human being. So you don't see him as an alien all the time. You see him once in a while, or when you see his reflection in a mirror, it's the alien, and stuff like that. They show him a bit more as an alien as the series goes along. So that's one sort of obvious difference. The other is they there's a lot of similarities between the show and the comic, but they are kind of doing their own thing. And so it is very different, but I actually don't mind that, because it's also very good. I mean, had they made as many changes and it was awful, I wouldn't be sitting here talking to you probably. But no, it's a really good show, and a good thing in its own right. So,
which is a lovely thing to hear, and it seems to me the absolute key. It's for you, the creator, the co-creator, to be very pleased with the adaptation. That is really saying something, I think.
Yeah. I mean, it's. I mean, I'm sure there will be people that prefer the comics. I'm sure there will be people who watch the TV show and find the comics kind of bewildering as a result. But it's there's room for both. I mean, I think they're both good. So hopefully other people will feel the same.
I think that's very, very wise. I think that's a great way to look at it. Now, if you have people who are checking out your work as a result of the TV show and get up to speed with Resident Alien in comic form, what else would you recommend pushing them towards in terms of your back catalogue?
Well, I suppose the things I'm proudest of. Well, there's all the Sandman stuff from the Dreaming and Sandman Presents, with a whole range of really good artists. I suppose I must have done about 8 or 9 different stories. And I'd love to see that stuff collected in a book, but it's never happened. So anybody that wants to check that out is going to have to go through the, back issue bins.
I mean, one of the things that I would very much recommend to anybody who wants to take a deep dive into the back issue bins would be, or the expensive back issues that are available online, rather than the back issue bins were a thing of the past.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. I'm showing my age there, mate. That you should check out Love Street, which is an epic piece of work of yours. What can you tell the viewers about that, mate?
That was a story that I did with Michael Zulli, who's wonderful, as I'm sure you know. And it was set. It was set at the time that Morpheus, Dream of the Endless, was being held prisoner in England by the magician that captured him. And it was set in partly in the 1960s and partly now, or at any rate the now when the story came out. And one of the characters that was in it was the teenage John Constantine.
Yes. See, I knew this was coming, and that's why I asked you this question, because I think that's what makes it truly memorable. Why it's always been surprising to me that it's not been collected.
I know. I mean, I'd love them to do a book edition of, even if it wasn't all the dreaming stuff, if just to do one of that, because a lot of people who lived through that kind of hippie era really, as I did, really related to that story and got something out of it.
It's a fantastic story. Can you talk a bit about Tom Strong and your involvement with Tom?
Yes, of course. Well, what happened with Tom Strong was Alan Moore has his own line of comics, which was America's Best Comics, as I'm sure you know. And he did an interview where he said, he wanted to bring in other writers to work on the line. So I was straight on the phone going, that thing you said. And he sort of said, yeah, you're already on the list. Don't worry about it. And it took years before it actually happened. But then I did a one-off thing called The Many Worlds of Tesla Strong with about, a dozen or so really good artists. And then I did Terra Obscura, which was something that I co-plotted with Alan, and then I went off and scripted the thing from there. And we had Yannick Paquette on art for then. It was one of the first things he did. And then I did a few issues of Tom Strong, and then the whole kind of ABC line came to an end. But a few years after that, they asked me that if Alan was okay with the idea, would I like to do some Tom Strong comics? So fortunately, Alan was fine with the idea, and then I did 2 Tom Strong miniseries, both of which came out in trade paperback, so they might be a little easier to track down. Tom Strong and the Robots of Doom, and Tom Strong and the Planet of Peril.
Both excellent, and both it's Sprouse on the artwork, right?
It is, yeah.
They're great stuff, and I thoroughly recommend both of those. So to wrap up, in terms of what's next for Resident Alien on the comics front, you've got the current series out now. Do you have further plans for the future?
Well, I'm going to have to sort of hedge my bets on that thing, because the thing is that there's a lot of people speculating as to whether or not this is the last series or whatever. And I kind of can neither confirm nor deny.
Got it.
Because I don't want to spoil anybody's fun, mainly, and there is... everybody's questions about the future of Resident Alien will be answered in the last issue.
Fantastic.
Which should be on sale around about May, I think. So
yeah, and that series Resident Alien Your Rides Here is available from the links attached to this video. And the Resident Alien Omnibus from Dark Horse is also available from the links attached to this video. And one more time, 27th of Jan for the US and 28th of Jan for the UK. And Peter, finally, before we say cheerio, have you got anything else you're working on at the moment?
Yeah, the classic cliched answer, nothing I can tell you about.
It was ever thus. I'd be disappointed if you answered that in any other way.
Let's just say I haven't been idle in lockdown.
Excellent. I love it, mate. I'll look forward to seeing it, whatever it is. So great to see you, brother. You take care of yourself.
And you.
And I'll see you soon.
You will.
When all of this is over. When the catastrophe is over. Take care, mate.
Take care.
Bye. If you're enjoying watching Forbidden Planet TV and you're enjoying watching us talk to the world's most interesting and accomplished filmmakers, authors, artists, musicians, creators, subscribe right here. See you soon.